Campaign Stalingrad is the latest softback supplement book for Warlord Games company level World War II rules, bolt action. Let's take a look inside its 176 pages and see what's on offer. Prelude sets the historical scene for the Stalingrad campaign, taking us from the situation in January 1942 to the fight for the Don bridgeheads in August of the same year. After a short historical introduction to the battles around the Don River, we get into the first war game scenario. As we proceed through the book, we will find another 21 scenarios taking us from the Don to the proposed German breakout from the city of Stalingrad. The action in the supplement follows the German 6th Army and the Soviet 62nd, with all the tabletop actions centred around the forces within those armies. As we flip through the scenarios, you will note the tried and tested bolt action formula of objective, setup, special rules, forces, deployment, game duration and victory. Welcome distraction from the game mechanics is also provided by box outs with historical details about such things as the Stug 33B and Women of the Red Army. There are also stats for Legends of Stalingrad, like Vasily Zitizev and the Master Sniper Major Erwin Konigs. All the scenarios are engaging to read and leave you itching to get the toys on the table as soon as possible. Of course, gaming from the Russian countryside to the mean streets of Stalingrad does present players with some interesting challenges when it comes to gathering both models and terrain, and any attempt to complete all 22 scenarios will be both satisfying and formidable. The scenarios conclude with Operation Ring, the Soviets' final assault on what was left of the German beleaguered 6th Army. After a few pages wrapping up the history, we are introduced to new Soviet units. This includes 2 new Commissar units, one of which, the Polotruk, gives Soviet players a post-August 1942 commissioner option. The Polotruk no longer has authority to shoot any deserters, but gains the power to inspire nearby inexperienced squads to fight harder. Furthermore, Soviet lists gained 2 new sniper options, a student officer squad and a fresh off the assembly line Tractor Factory 234. Perhaps most interesting of all the new units is the Storm Group. These fearsome Soviet squads are expensive but deadly, always striking first in close combat when they charge, even when the enemy is behind cover. For the Germans, since Stalingrad was primarily a battle of infantry, new unit options have made their way into the book to allow players to field even more varieties of German Lancers. Among the new unit options are early war Panzer Grenadier squadrons, Croatian infantry, Jaeger squads and alarm troop units, hastily assembled together in emergencies to halt enemy breakthroughs. Croatian units are able to take advantage of Hitler's buzzsaw rule for machine guns, as well as a brand new Croatian Pride rule that allows them to remove 2 pin markers whenever passing a Snap 2 order. Jaeger units receive extra training that, in theory, allowed them to move quickly through hilly terrain. In bolt action, this is represented by the Jaeger ability to advance at a run through rough terrain, a valuable skill in the rubble of Stalingrad. New units conclude with those for the Romanians. The stalwart Romanians appear in several scenarios in the Stalingrad supplement and are able to make use of tankettes and armoured cars. We now have 1 page of new options which includes messengers, demolition chargers and rifle grenade adapters. Theatre selectors come next. These are the army lists used in Campaign Stalingrad. For the Soviets, the earliest selectors represent the Red Army as they fought on the outskirts of the city and during the initial assault. The options in this list are fairly consistent with other early war Soviet options, with the exception of the first defenders of the city, whose impromptu defences utilised large numbers of militia units, tanks that had just rolled off the assembly line and repurposed anti-aircraft guns. Later lists contain several options for close-range fighting and heavy artillery bombardments. In the last third of the book, the Soviets gain access to their Operation Uranus lists, which are mainly tank platoons, including a fearsome flame tank platoon. German players likewise gained several new lists that begin as fairly typical examples of early war infantry and panzer platoons. An interesting new addition is the Armoured Kampfgruppe platoon. In bolt action terms, the Armoured Kampfgruppe is a hybrid infantry and tank platoon. It requires players to take an officer, a mandatory tank section and a motorised mechanised Panzer Grenadier squad. Whilst the mandatory selections are expensive points-wise, players have freedom to fill out the rest of their list with a mixture of vehicles, infantry and support options. Later in the conflict, the Germans relied increasingly on assault guns such as Stugs and heavily armoured Pioneer squadrons. Several tank platoon selectors are also included, especially to represent the armoured forces that were sent to break the Soviet encirclement around the 6th Army. The 1st Romanian Armoured Division selector gives Romania its first tank platoon list, allowing a prospective player to field a force of motorised infantry alongside German and Czechoslovakian tanks. Meanwhile, a Romanian cavalry troop selector allows an entire mounted force of Romanians to go into battle, supplemented by an array of armoured cars, including the diminutive R1 tankette, which also makes its debut in this supplement. We move from the army list to 10 pages of new rules, including ongoing artillery bombardments, snow, digging in, fuel and ammo shortages, and some detailed rules for city fighting with new rubble and foobar tables. The book concludes with a new campaign system that allows players to add context to their Stalingrad games by competing for control of the city. Campaign Stalingrad really is the only book you will ever need for wargaming in and around one of the most famous battlegrounds of World War II. You would be hard pressed to think of anything the author has not included within the leaves of the book, and it's well written, engaging and entertaining to boot. If you're one of those World War II gamers, the like of whom I've never met, who say, "I love World War II but I'm not interested in Stalingrad," then this book isn't for you. For everyone else, it is. This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated Magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.